Hello and welcome back to the Locker Room Podcast. We're in season 2 now, and we're going to be talking about everything Premier League today. So I'm your host Zain, joined by my co-host Sully, and our amazing guest for this week, Mr. Hole. How are you doing today, sir?
Evening, guys. Great. How are you?
Good. Excited to talk football with you. We've heard a lot about your opinions from some of our previous guests.
No, I've heard a lot about your podcast. I've heard it's a quality production, so it's a privilege to be here.
Great. Anyways, let's get straight into it. So we had Champions League football midweek. What are some things you guys want to talk about? Should we hit Madrid first?
Yeah, I mean, it's not great seeing them like this. Honestly, it's really not a quality team. Used to be one of the best, especially in the Champions League. How many times have we won it, right? But now you see just a huge decline for them in performance. It's not good to see.
It looks to me like they're reaping the benefits of years of what I consider to be pretty bad culture building at the club. I mean, when Ronaldo was there, Ronaldo carried the club, but he was a bit of a petulant child, really, and they just allowed him to get away with it because he was quality. And Benzema seems to have stepped into that model now at the
All right, let's get into that. What did you guys think of that thing between Benzema? So for anyone who doesn't know, Vinicius, so Madrid were down 2-0 to Mönchengladbach, and in the tunnel, Benzema actually to Mendy in French said, "Don't pass to Vinicius, he's playing against us today." What do you guys think about that? Do you think that's wrong or shouldn't be said, or is okay, but it shouldn't be caught on camera? What do you guys think?
Again, it's part of, as Mr. Hall mentioned, it's part of that negative culture around the club. Overall, the club has been known. With a player like Ramos, he's a very dirty player. There's a lot of just negativity around that club, I feel like. And, I mean, that's reflected with things like that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, when I never played at any sort of level, but there was always the laughing and joking around, oh, you're having a nightmare and you've been their best player this first half and things like that. But I think the insidious nature of the way that Benzema's probably approached that is what's made it such a big deal. And again, I think you made a good point, Zain, is that stuff like that stays in the locker room. It's not something that should be said out where the media are going to catch. I'm sure it's said 100 times a week across the world in professional football, but it's just not something that should be out washing your dirty laundry in public, sort of thing. Eh?
Gotcha. Yeah, no, I think as well, because it's Benzema, you know, like he is the player that really carries Real Madrid at the moment. After Ronaldo left, everyone looked at Hazard. Hazard's had kind of a nightmare at Madrid. Let's be honest. Like, I think he scored his first goal yesterday after 369 days. It's not been a great time for Hazard at Madrid, who is a world-class winger. But Benzema really stepped into that role. But he's meant to be the veteran kind of senior leader. You know, like after you remove Ramos from the team and you straight go to Benzema, and for your like vice captain to be saying that is really, really just disappointing, honestly. Sully, what do you think about their performances in the Champions League, though?
Okay, so let's be honest.
First game. Let's talk first game. Let's talk against Shakhtar first.
Okay, they're sitting. Oh, they're against Shakhtar, yeah. Okay, Shakhtar it's a good team, right? It's not a bad team, but it's not a team Real Madrid can ever lose to. Mm-hmm. It's not like Liverpool, West Ham, where sometimes West Ham can win a match, but this is Real Madrid. And I'm speechless, honestly. Like they've absolutely, like, not only are they ruining their current run, but basically they're proving to people that Cristiano Ronaldo and like them having a more organized team with Bale still stable with them was the reason for them getting to where they were, essentially. And that's not what they should be doing. That's not what they should be doing at all.
I mean, I totally agree with you. I think we saw in that first half, Madrid conceded 3 goals in 45 minutes. And this was without Ramos playing, and everyone pointed straight to that. And then they brought 2 goals back, but that was constant. I mean, Shakhtar they were one-on-one with Courtois 3 times in the second half. That could have been a 6-2 game, a convincing 6-2 game, and nobody would have complained. And then all the Madrid fans are saying, okay, it's because Ramos isn't there. You know, he's our talisman. You know, we had him in El Clasico. We won El Clasico. He's there. and then you go against Mönchengladbach and you're drawing 2-2. I mean, if Inter Milan did not look as bad as they have looked in the Champions League, Madrid would genuinely be considering maybe we don't get out of this group. So, okay, so I guess my question from there is, how big of a failure is it for Real Madrid if they finish second in this group?
I think you're talking about them potentially not getting out of the group. I don't think you're talking about whether they finish second. It's a genuine concern that whether they're going to actually get out of the group, because who turns this around for them? Is Hazard going to hit a bit of a purple patch and suddenly be their hero? I don't see them when it's something like this, which suggests it's a cultural problem at the club or in the dressing room. It's not something that you turn around in a week or two. It's something that's going to take a lot more effort and a lot bigger changes for them to actually turn this around. I think them not getting out of the groups is similar to the World Cup where Brazil didn't get out of their group, didn't get to the knockout phase. You're talking to the same sort of level of.
Maybe Germany.
Huh?
You mean Germany, right?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Germany.
Yeah.
David Luiz had to stay on the pitch and apologise to the fans, and that's the big thing for Real Madrid. Their fans don't accept stuff like this. They'll soon turn on players. I mean, look at what they've done in the past. They'll turn on players. I don't know how safe Zidane is from the fans and from the board because he's a club legend, but I mean, I don't think Madrid fans will accept this, and they'll turn on them all, and they'll have to clean out.
Do you think he leaves at the end? I've heard a lot of speculation saying his contract is up this year. Do you think? I think a club like Juventus would want him. I think if we're accepting the fact that maybe Guardiola moves on from City, which would be heartbreaking for me, but do we accept the fact that maybe it's time for Zidane to leave for the second time?
Who replaces him?
What's he doing in management though?
Fair. I mean, so you can't say that he hasn't delivered success, right? But he's delivered. Sure. Now that's the thing. I think this season is probably his biggest test because this is the one season that he's had where they haven't signed anyone. Not one player did they sign. And then obviously last season winning La Liga was a huge achievement for him. I think it's what how Liverpool wanted to win the Premier League. Real Madrid's goal was similar. But I mean, it gets to a point where you're thinking Spanish football is not that great right now. You're looking at Atletico Madrid, which can play to the highs of, beating Liverpool 2 games in a row and then lose to Osasuna. And then you're looking at a pretty dysfunctional Barcelona team. I mean, let's be honest, beating Juventus has been great, but a team that's performance seems to shift because their president resigned. I mean, that's crap, honestly. A president should have no effect on how a football team is playing, and Barcelona for some reason does. So even as winning, I feel like this season, if Real Madrid win La Liga, it's really not a big achievement compared to where they should be competing, and that's in the Champions League. So
this La Liga looks like, to me, looks like what's it called? The Bundesliga. Like 4 years back, where it was just there were 2 teams, Bayern and Borussia Dortmund. That was it.
Mm-hmm.
No one else was playing.
Sure. I mean, it's turning into very. I think it's really bad for Spanish football to see these 2 teams with like so many aging players, and we pulled our hair out at Barcelona for giving these contracts to these players. Like how many? So they gave Arturo Vidal a new contract, Rakitic a new contract, and Suarez new contracts, and then last season let all 3 of those players go on freeze. So it's just these bad decisions, and I think you look at Real Madrid. Luka Modric is 35. Should he really be starting most games for your team? I mean, he's still a fantastic player, but these aging players are just you need to build this like youth initiative that you're seeing at clubs like Liverpool, bringing up talented young players, Man United, Chelsea even. I think Spanish football has been too slow to that, and that's really hurting them. And then obviously when you say that, all the Madrid fans are going to throw Vinicius and Rodrigo at you and say, oh no, we're building teenagers. But I mean, I don't know. Personally, I think...
No, but it's partly because the Spanish league had arguably the 2 best players in the world for many years.
I don't think you can say arguably. I think they were the 2
Yeah,
best players.
exactly, yeah. They are the 2 best players in the world, yeah.
Sure.
So they've hung on to that, I guess, and they want to keep hanging on to it. But they've.
How much is have they got the crowds back in the stadiums?
No, not yet.
how much is that of that plays a factor? Do you think, like
yeah.
Barcelona and Real Madrid, the way that their stadiums are, and then you've got Atletico that aren't used to playing, and maybe they don't have that same atmosphere, and you know, like how much does that start to play a part? Same with the Premier League. How much does that play a part in these clubs like going to Liverpool? If Anfield's not as noisy and it's not as intimidating, the clubs go there and think they can have a go, and maybe that's the same with Madrid. And
I mean, you saw. I mean, we'll talk about the Premier League in a bit, but just to mention, like we saw West Ham playing at Anfield. West Ham hasn't won a game against Liverpool in about since 2015. I want to say 2015 was the last time they won a game. They've taken points off Liverpool in draws, but they've never won. And West Ham looked like comfortable playing against Liverpool. You know,
they did really well. Yeah,
they were just settled as a tight, compact defensive unit. And it just worries me that maybe if we don't get fans back for the rest of the season, is there a possibility that we're seeing these big clubs kind of lose their edge?
Well, that's not really worrying me. That's interesting. I mean, it's good to see. I mean, yeah, because at the end, you want to see entertaining football. Yeah, you want your club to win, whatever, but you want to see entertaining football, right? You don't want the same thing that happened last year to happen again. Even though I'm a Liverpool fan, I don't want the same thing to happen again. I want there to be like actual
competition.
Yeah, exactly.
You see how cocky they've gotten? They won one league and now they're like, oh, we want competition. Bring us points.
think about the Premier League, the crescendos to Premier Leagues of the years gone by, and the year that Man City won it on the final day with Aguero scoring. Man United won the game. They thought they'd won the league. Aguero scores late on. That's the sort of drama that you want in football. You don't want a league pretty much tied up by Christmas. And the good thing is no one seems to be. I don't think I suppose Germany's a little bit different, but in Spain and in the Premier League, and I guess even towards over in Italy a little bit, there's nobody really staking a claim and starting to pull away in any of those leagues at the moment.
I mean, even Germany, right? Like, actually, before we get to Germany, let's talk about Bayern Munich, who played their Champions League game on the weekend. They were quite strong, I think. They had a great first game against Atletico, who we thought maybe would have a better... Like, you think if you pick one team to play against Bayern that isn't going to attack, you'd probably put Atletico there, right? Like a very, very stern, strong defense. And they got ripped apart. And, I mean, that was Sane, Gnabry, Muller just destroying Atletico. And then they played...
I'd say currently Bayern is the most dangerous team.
In the Champions League, yeah. So if you had to put...
Yeah, most definitely.
So so I'm going to ask you guys both this, which is a bit of a hard question, but if you had to rank your top 3 teams to win it, and then we're going to look back at this in about 4 months, but your 3 teams that you think are genuine contenders, and I want you to rank them in terms of order that you think they're going to actually perform the best. So we'll go with Mr. Hull first.
Oh, he's thrown me in it. You know, it's hard to see past Bayern at the minute. I mean, I'm a huge advocate for culture. And the way in which a culture can change a club, like what Leicester did in the Premier League a few years ago, and that was all around culture. And I think Bayern have just got that right at the moment. Whether they'll be able to keep that going, I mean, football's a weird sport where anything can happen. They could have a couple of players pick up a couple of tricky injuries at key moments and throw them out. But I go Bayern. Liverpool are going to be up there, I would imagine. City will be up there, I would imagine. And you're a fool if you write off. I mean, I know I've just said Real Madrid might not get out of the group, but Barcelona will be up there as well. And then they'd be my picks, I think. I don't think anyone from Italy is going to figure this year.
Sure. Okay, so to wrap up La Liga, which team right now, I know we just had Clasico recently, but which team do you think right now looks better? Bayern Munich, Barcelona or Real Madrid?
Real Madrid. Although they've been this terrible recently, but Barcelona is way too just unorganized and there's no
cohesion.
Yeah, it's just you're doing this, try to score a goal. They're not playing together.
I think Barcelona are an easier fix than Real Madrid. I think they're more likely to get it. I think they're more likely to get back on track than what Real Madrid are at the moment. I think it's the dressing room's just poison at Real Madrid at the moment, and I don't know whether you look at the way that Zidane dealt with Bale. I don't know whether he has that man management that's going to be required to pull them back into a harmonious unit. But I think Barcelona is probably going to be easier to rescue.
And do you think, in you choosing Barcelona, do you think a president is a big part of that?
It depends. I think they shouldn't be, but they can be. I think if depending on the way that they run the club, the amount of freedom that they give to managers, the way in which they manage the managerial and the leadership team, that sort of stuff, that all has an impact. How much they meddle, I think they can do a lot of damage. Whether they can actually, whether a president is enough to come in and shape a team and create that culture and that mentality that's going to win them leagues, I don't know. But I think a president can be damaging, coming in and meddling in the dressing room, undermining the manager, talking like the purchases that they make, those sort of things.
And I think, Bartomeu really did all of that. I think he was hurt Barcelona pretty badly where they are now. And but look, personally, I think between Barca and Real Madrid, I would have to give it to Real Madrid because I just think they have more in their squad. Honestly, I feel like Barca relies so much on brilliance from key players like Messi, Fati, Coutinho. We haven't seen much out of Griezmann this season, but you know that he's the type of player that can like switch it on, right? But Madrid just has this weird way of like inching out goals and inching out wins and big performances. We had that game against, or I shouldn't say we, they had that game against PSG last year where they were up 2-0 until the 85th minute. Given, that was a draw, it finished a draw at 2-2. But Madrid can show up, and I think the issues with Barcelona, personally, I think while they're easier to fix, I don't think Ronald Koeman is the man to do it. Really, I think he is completely out of his depth at Barcelona.
Yeah, quite possibly.
That's okay. But again, Ronald Koeman is a great football player who's played high-level
football. Okay, but how far does that get you?
Most of his wait. But he's played high-level football for most of his career, right? Having that much experience with players, he has been on the field with those players. Hasn't he captained? I think he has, right?
Yeah.
He knows how to get to the players. He knows how to motivate them.
But that's
at least he should.
Okay, but I think that's a sorry, go on.
So I think that's going to help him with the squad that he has right now.
The problem for me though is the strategy side of things. So you listen to people talk about working with Pep Guardiola, and they talk about his strategic knowledge and his ability to put strategy together that wins games. Just because you've played the game doesn't necessarily mean you're a strategist and that you're able to set up a team to beat a well set out team. And that's a big difference for me. But having played the game gives you that level of authenticity in the dressing room, and it means that players are going to listen to you, and you're talking from a point of I've been there and I've done that. But whether at that level, when you're talking about Champions League football and you're talking about top level domestic leagues, it's a whole new ball game than just getting players on side with you, I guess. Mm-hmm. Especially when, again, we've talked about both clubs being in a bit of a dire straits at the moment with the way that things are.
Sure. I think if, we have the presidential elections in 2 months, I think, and they've said that if not Bartomeu's party, the other party wins, Xavi is going to come in, or the plan has been the whole time is, they win the election, Xavi comes in as manager. What happens to Koeman? My only question is, when he took this job, why would you take this job with this squad? I get you want to manage Barcelona, but why would you take this job now? You're mainly going to get 1 year to make an impression, and picking up the bones of a squad, plus you have all the COVID fitness issues, and you have a really, really unmotivated squad. I just can't see it personally. I don't think it was a good move.
And then Messi goes and throws in a transfer request just
before. Yeah, no, in how many rumors are there that Messi's going to go to City for like 20 million in January? Like his contract is up into, I don't know. Barcelona just gets me frustrated. So let's move on to Germany for a little bit. Obviously, we mentioned how good Bayern has been to start. What do we think about the youth? How is Dortmund looking?
Disappointing to see them lose the way they did.
Against Lazio, yeah.
Yeah. I expected more out of Sancho, for example. Okay, Haaland has been great. Even though they lost that match, even though whatever, he has still been great.
Sure.
But I just haven't seen enough from Sancho, to be honest.
I've not watched enough of the German teams play, to be honest, but I do like what Dortmund are doing with the young lads and the young players, and Jude Bellingham going over there.
Yeah.
That's a big move for a young Englishman to go over to Germany. That's a really big move for them to make. So they must be doing something right.
Yeah,
And it reminds me a little bit of Alex Ferguson's United back in the 90s. You'd get young players that would get offered big deals and big opportunities to go to these other clubs, and they'd choose Man United over it. And there's just something that's those sort of clubs that can attract young players. They know what to say, they know what to show them, they know what to offer them, and I'd like to see Dortmund do well just because they're trying to do it with young players. So I'd really like to see them do well. But
you look at some of their. I mean, you have like Giovanni Reina, the young U.S. international, who there's so much I think respect for. You have Reina, the young Real Madrid loanee. There is obviously Brandt. There's Haaland, who we've mentioned. There's Sancho. I mean, there's Akanji. There's some fantastic young pieces in Dortmund. And the only thing is, I think, finding that cohesion, because if Dortmund is firing, I mean, we saw a team that beat PSG last season. Let's not forget, PSG was a very strong team last season, and Dortmund beat them in the first leg. This is a team that can produce. If everything clicks, this team can be fantastic. The only issue is when you get youth players, you get the exact same thing of that Chelsea's facing, where you have a lot of inconsistencies. And when players like Hummels and Royce are injured or not playing, then you have to look at a person like Haaland, who is, 22? I mean, I feel like I talk about Haaland like I talk about Lewandowski. People ask me who I think the second best striker in the world is. Right now, it's Haaland, 100%. At his age, I think Haaland is a generational talent. Behind Mbappe, it's Haaland for me. And I think they're playing, I think Bayern's playing Dortmund day after tomorrow. And I think that will really decide how the Bundesliga goes and how Dortmund actually looks. Because previously, Dortmund, we said all these nice things about them, and then the big games come up and they lose these games. Bayern consistently has that little bit of magic, and Dortmund loses. Now this season, if that's different, if those pieces fit together, then maybe we have a much more interesting Bundesliga, and maybe we have a much more interesting Champions League group.
Who's their leader in that team? Who's the old general that they got? Again,
I have to say Royce.
How old is he? I don't know that.
Royce is 31. Royce is 31.
Okay. Yeah.
It would be between Royce and Hummels, both who are, German internationals, world champions. I mean, the story of Royce is probably the greatest player to never win a significant trophy.
I feel like a team like Dortmund, that's where you need a captain, one like Henderson, for example, one that you can visibly see the effect that he has on the team, on and off the pitch. Being able to, really, really take control of your team and tell them when to switch it on and when to, what to do. It's not easy to do, but captains like that are key to young teams with such inconsistencies like Dortmund.
Sure. And, we've touched on Bayern already. Like, wow, this team is just... I don't think there's much left to say about Bayern at this point. I mean, Lewandowski looks like he's in the fitness and form of his life. Thomas Müller somehow went from being someone who looked like he was out of Bayern to maybe their most valuable player. Leroy Sané has transitioned perfectly, which I'm a bit sad about, but it's fine. He looks good there, whatever. He did great service for us. Really, this team looks like it's firing at all cylinders. Honestly, I don't see a way that, unless a team like City or Liverpool, or even maybe Barcelona, we saw what happened last time they played Barcelona. But if a team has potential attacking options, the only way I see you beat Bayern is by playing into their own style and just playing, abusing that high line. But
that's where the strategist of a manager comes in, right? So
sure.
I'm not saying you couldn't take Pep Guardiola, put him into the Nottingham Forest team, and he's going to beat Bayern Munich. But you give a manager that knows how to analyze a team, look at the different options that they have, the different ways that they can play, and then have a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C ready for the game. That's going to be the difference. That's when it does come down to a good manager, is when you've got two good sides that come up against each other at the right time, and then it's who gets their strategy right on the day, or it's that one player that steps up and and changes the game for either side. And I think that's the only thing I can see Bayern slipping up here, is if there's a team comes up against them like that. But like I said, football's a strange game. Lots can happen. Injuries, suspensions.
Oh yeah. I mean, you lose Lewandowski on injury, and what happens? You know.
Exactly.
But I'd say currently, what it looks like to me is that Man City are in a better spot to beat Bayern than Liverpool are, just because of what you said, Mr. Hall, about the strategy. Pep Guardiola is obviously a much better strategist than Jurgen Klopp. I think we can all admit that. I don't mind. So yeah, he's just in a better position to beat them, just because of his strategic expertise.
Sure. Yeah. All right. Let's touch. I mean, let's get to the meat of this podcast. Let's talk about the Premier League. So I think first team to cover on is Everton. I think, who've been a pleasant surprise. I don't think anyone expected them to be as competent as they've looked. Honestly, I think. I mean, first player. What do you guys think of James Rodriguez being at this team? How do you think his impact has been?
He's missed the last 2 games, hasn't he?
Mm-hmm. He's missed. He missed 2 games, I think. But besides that, he's played every other one.
Yeah. What's the results been in the 2 games that he's not
Yeah,
played?
that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
2 losses.
He's had a massive impact, not just because of his actual performance, just because of his presence within the team. I think it empowers the other players around him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. That's what happens when you bring a player of that caliber into a mid-table side. Let's be honest about it, and that's what can happen. You look at the Bolton side of the late '90s when they got JJ Okocha playing for them. Mm-hmm. JJ Okocha was an absolute world beater, and when he played, Bolton it was almost like, we've got him in our side, we can do anything. So they always felt like they were threatened. I think that's probably what's happened at Everton. They've kind of looked and they've gone. We've brought Rodriguez in. We've brought the fella from Barkley from Chelsea. Brought him in on loan. Calvert-Lewin's obviously just stepped up to the plate and just risen to the occasion. But like I said, Rodriguez missed 2 games. They've lost the first 2 games of the season. So
I think it's important to.
It might be the linchpin for them, eh?
It's important to understand the fact that Rodriguez was not really successful at Madrid in terms of you understand his trophy case looks fantastic, but his contribution to that was very minimal. And
legacy there, has he?
Mm-hmm. But it feels like under the correct setup, you can get the best out of James Rodriguez. And I think for some reason Ancelotti just knows how to do it. You know, he looked great.
Ancelotti is a world-class manager.
Sure. But specifically for some reason, when James Rodriguez plays under Carlo Ancelotti, whether it was at Bayern, whether it's been here at Everton, he gets a special tune out of him. But I mean, I don't want to discredit the fact that while, James Rodriguez has been the one who's making all of our fantasy drafts go so high, even players like Alan and Doucouré, who they bought in as, serviceable, strong midfielders. I mean, that Everton midfielder, a team that is starting players like Davis and an unfit Andre Gomez, going from that to really, really solid upper table midfielders who are competent. I think that's the biggest thing. Has really let that front line shine.
But the question is,
speak to any Everton fan, even when they were winning games, and any Everton fan would say to you, the bubble will burst, the bubble will burst, the bubble will burst. No Everton fan expected that to continue. They enjoyed it while it was there, and they dream a little bit. But I don't think any Everton fan actually thought that was going to continue. They all expected something to come crumbling around them. Now I hope when Rodriguez comes back, they can still hit a bit of form and they can keep things going and they can still perform. But I don't think anybody expected them to go on and win the league or anything like that. I think it was just a nice surprise.
Facade. But I think so I'll ask if Everton gets European football this season, whether that's Europa League or Champions League, whatever, do you think that's a successful season?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, going from where they were to where they would be if they got to there, that's great for them. But yeah, again, the question is, how long will the Rodriguez effect last, I guess?
I mean, it's starting to wear off now. We just saw against Newcastle what happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, I think Calvert-Lewin still looks great. If there's one thing to get out of this Everton team, it's that if you play around Calvert-Lewin, there's
There's great
talent in
potential.
there. There's a
Yeah.
very rough around the edges, but a lot of talent there for a young English striker, which I
Yeah.
think England need right now. They're all positionally quite strong except their striker. It's Harry Kane, and then it kind of drops off. So
Yeah.
I think overall I think we're quite happy with Everton, especially their cup performances. I think this is a team that will not challenge for the Prem this season, but is building towards something, and I think Ancelotti is probably the right man to do that. Honestly,
Yeah.
That's if they keep the players.
sure, that's true as well.
Other than doing what he's doing, somebody's going to come knocking, and Everton are not a club that keeps hold of players. If someone comes and offers the right price tag, they'll have to sell. But
sure,
I don't think they'll.
yeah. No, we heard about those rumors last season about Richarlison moving on to Barcelona. I think Richarlison is probably one of Everton's best players. And I think it shows intention. Let's see what the board actually thinks. If the board thinks, in a year or two, Ancelotti can take us to a place where we can actually compete with Liverpool and City and maybe Chelsea. But if not, then I think, you go for that. The style of player where you're making a profit, right? But
well, it's a dangerous game. You've only got to look back at the history of the Premier League, and you look at teams like Leeds when they plummeted, and the years and years and years it's taken them to get back into the Premier League. That was all because the board had a punt on the Champions League. When they'd got Ferdinand and Viduka and Kewell, they'd got all those players in there, and they took a punt on the Champions League. Let's go and have a good run on the Champions League. It didn't work out for them. They ended up in massive money problems, and it's taken them years to get back to the Premier League. Portsmouth did the same. Portsmouth had a good couple of years, and then they've just plummeted back down through the leagues. So it's a dangerous game to play, and it's a brave football ownership board that kind of go, you know what, let's back this manager, let's throw some money at him, let's take a gamble on trying to break into the Big Four or get into a Champions League place, because if it goes wrong, it's catastrophic. And Leicester have managed. I mean, look at what Leicester have done since they won the league. They've done nothing major.
Brilliant signing. Brilliant smart signings.
Yeah, they've just been there. They've never threatened again to win the league.
They're competitive.
They've just become a very strong top 10 Premier League club that don't really look like they have to worry about relegation until Vardy retires, and then everything goes wrong.
Yeah.
I think Leicester has the ideal business model. You look at their deals there. So 80 million on Maguire, 50 million on Conte, 50 million on Mahrez, 50 million on Chilwell, all of these players. But the crazy thing is, it hasn't hurt them, They lost Maguire for 80 million, and everyone was like, okay, their defense is gone. They signed Soyuncu, who's playing in the Turkish league, no hopes. He looked like a quality center back for the team. And it's just I think that's the beauty of this Leicester team, is that you take out a piece and they're able to almost effortlessly just replace that piece, and have them do a similar job while making huge amounts of money and actually reinvesting it in the team. So I think, Leicester's.
That's because they didn't rely on a key player, like, for example, Barcelona did, where they relied on their front three, where Real Madrid relied on Ronaldo and Bale and Benzema. You just see it over and over, and once those are gone, the team crumbles because they don't have a backup.
What happens to Leicester when Vardy finishes?
Exactly.
That's true.
That's the only piece that they probably can replace.
Absolutely. Look at the goal output that he's created for them. That's not something that you get easily.
Just a random topic. I know I didn't plan to talk about this. Where do you guys think Vardy goes down once he retires in terms of Premier League strikers?
Oh, one of the best.
Yeah.
Look at what
I'd say top.
You look at what he's
10,
done.
top 5.
Like we've just said, he's been in a side for. He's been at a club where the best players have been moved on, and he's continuously scored goals the way that he has.
Yeah.
I remember back when I was playing the game back in the UK, and a guy came and played with us for a recreational charity game, and he was talking about. He said, "We've got a guy playing for us at the moment." He said, "Is the non-league version of Ronaldo. No one can get near him. He just knocks the ball out his feet and is scoring goals for fun." And that was Vardy. And they was talking about Jamie Vardy when he was at Halifax Town. And Vardy's just gone on he's done it in almost every league of the English game. There's not many that can say they've done that. I mean, the last one I remember that's done anything like that is Ian Wright. Ian Wright did that back way back when. but it wasn't as unusual back then for players to be coming from the non-league game and coming into the professional ranks.
Yeah.
It's so rare now that you get players do that.
Uh-huh. And I think Vardy started playing it, 26, right? I think 26 was when, which is
Yeah.
which only makes you just feel like, oh, if we could have had those other 6 years, you know, if we could have gone to watch.
Maybe he wouldn't have been as good as what he is if he hadn't.
True.
In those lower
Maybe he
leagues.
would have had an early transfer to somewhere else, and his career would have been completely different. Yeah.
May not have appreciated what he's got, so might not have worked as hard in training, might not have had the same attitude towards everything.
Sure. So, I mean, Leicester gets an A+ from us. What do we think about...
Move on to Liverpool, eh?
Okay, you want to do... I was going to wait for the big boys after. Sure, let's do Liverpool now. So, obviously...
Big loss of Van Dijk.
Big news. So, Van Dijk is out for the rest of the season, confirmed. Fabinho's picked up quite a nasty injury.
Exceptionally.
He's going to be out for He's going to be out for 2 or 3 months. Thiago picked up a knock against Everton, and he's going to be out.
But Thiago's coming back soon, yeah. Just a week
I think a couple more weeks, yeah. So, do we think Liverpool can challenge without Van Dijk?
They can, they will or not.
Because I mean, okay, the youngsters in Liverpool have stepped up massively in one
game.
No. We've been playing Curtis Jones like he's part of the main squad, and he's performed brilliantly. We've been playing Minamino, who we played 2 games last season. Yeah, he's performed brilliantly. Reece Williams recently, his debut, he's done great. He hasn't done a major mistake. He's been playing as part of the team.
So you genuinely so I get your Liverpool bias is coming. I can see the love hearts in your eye, but you genuinely think that this season without Van Dijk, without the best center back in the world, Liverpool can compete for the title?
Yes,
and win the title.
Let me tell you why.
Sure.
If you look at how our team's been affected, right? We're missing a center back. The most important player on our team we're missing, right? Fabinho has stepped up to be a brilliant center back.
Competent. Right? Relax.
No.
He does one goal line clearance, and he's He's Puyol now.
He's held that line well.
I think we're talking about Fabinho, not Maldini. You know that, right? We're talking about Fabinho right now?
Yeah. Okay. So he's done that brilliantly. We don't need him in our midfield anymore for now, because we've got Henderson to get into center defensive midfield. We've got Thiago and Wijnaldum. That's more than enough for me. Because, again, have you seen Wijnaldum play? Have you seen how he's been playing?
Okay. The affection is coming. Mr. Hull, what do you think? Can Liverpool challenge without Van Dijk?
They can. Whether they will or not is a different matter. I think it's a well-known. I mean, you look at the number of teams that have done back-to-back championships across the world in every league. It's not an easy thing to do to win championships back-to-back. It's all well and good for a couple of players to step in and do a good job for a couple of games, but you got to think about when it's middle of January, you've got back-to-back games, you're not feeling it at that time. You're in the trenches, you're playing against a physical lower league side that just throw everything at you or stick everything behind the team. And it's whether they're going to have that, whether they're going to have that spark, that belief, whether the doubt starts to creep in for them then. Because at the end of the day, they've got to prove themselves to be double champions, back-to-back champions, and it doesn't happen very often. It's almost a completely different mentality, and there's no taking away from it that if they start to rock and wobble, everyone's going to talk about they can't do it without Van Dijk, and that is going to be the thing that everyone talks about whenever they have a bad game, whenever there's a mistake made in the back. Would that have happened if Van Dijk was playing? All of those things are going to creep in. And
no, I think
the players watch the interviews, the players listen to what people are saying, and it will creep and cause problems for them for sure.
I think it's just like City last season. You know, we lost Laporte at the start of the season, and it basically broke our defense. I mean, statistically, you look at Man City, and we conceded 3 more goals than Liverpool did the entire season. Liverpool's defense was miles ahead of City's. Every time there was an attack, a part of me was like, okay, we're going to concede here. And I think the effect is when you – and Laporte is a lot less important to Man City in terms of mentality than Van Dijk is. Van Dijk is the leader of that back.
Fair enough. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't know, Sully. I don't think that, like, you can look at his on-field performance. You can also look at the intangibles. I personally do not think that Liverpool compete this season.
But City?
I think City would. And for one reason, which we'll get into when we start talking about Man City. But, I mean, overall, I think Liverpool, actually, fun statistic, since the night Liverpool won it was confirmed that they would be winning the title, they clinched the title, no team in English football has conceded more goals.
Really?
That was released by ESPN yesterday. So, I mean...
No, but how many games have we lost?
Okay, fair, but... Okay, well, that's a good counter. But, I mean, wasn't expecting that. But is Liverpool... Okay, but no one doubts the talent of the... Stop laughing. No one doubts the talent of that attacking three, right? I'm more concerned about when you go up against these counter-attacking teams that are going to sit back. You know, you look at United, even, you know, what West Ham do. You find something on the break. One of these inexperienced center backs makes a mistake, and then you have something against Liverpool. Now, whether you can keep it or not, which we saw against West Ham, which West Ham couldn't. Let's not forget, West Ham are a mid-table team. A team like City or a team like United or maybe Chelsea or maybe a very, very competent Arsenal side could get something against Liverpool. And when you're conceding, no team in this season has conceded more goals than Liverpool. Liverpool has a defensive problem right now. And the only thing is, I don't see the solution. Now, if you're getting to January and you sign Upamecano or you sign Alaba, maybe all of that is gone, you know? Maybe all that concern's gone and Liverpool look like favorites again. But at this moment, I do not think that you can call Liverpool favorites.
When do Liverpool play Tottenham?
Sorry, what?
When do Liverpool play Tottenham?
Liverpool play Tottenham. Check.
For me, it will be the Man City, the Man United, and the
on
Tottenham
the 17th
game.
of December.
They'll be the game in the month.
They'll be the games that will really challenge. Liverpool. It's going to be the Man United game. It's going to be the Tottenham game, and it's going to be the Man City game. Obviously, The only thing is, Man City at the moment, obviously, they have as much as Liverpool have a defensive problem. Man City
have an attacking problem. Sure.
So you look at the attacking strength of a Tottenham, or the hunger that a young, very passionate Manchester United side are going to go to Liverpool with. That's when you're going to find out if the defenders at Liverpool are going to be able to roll up the sleeves and do the dirty work that's going to be needed.
So, okay, let's move on to City. So, obviously, there was that horrific result against Leicester where they totally capitulated, lost 5-2. And ever since then, I mean, it's kind of stabilized, right? I think we can agree that, you know, they're unbeaten in their last 6 games. Man City coming into form right now look pretty strong. It's been a pretty decent set of 2 Champions League games. However, I think as Mr. Hall mentioned, this team has a significant attacking issue. Scoring 9 goals in 6 games for one of the supposedly best attacking sides in Europe is not good at all. And I think everyone points to, you know, there's no Aguero, there's no Jesus. But I'm getting to a point as a City fan where I'm thinking we have one of the deepest squads. Something is going wrong here, and there is some issue. So, I mean, what do you guys think that is?
You don't have enough strikers. That's the reality of it. You've got a mass of creative players, but you don't have enough strikers. That's the biggest problem. Mm-hmm. Sterling's output as a forward player has never been good enough. He scores stacks of goals from the wing and does a brilliant job as a winger, but you can't push him in and play him as a number 9 or a number 10. De Bruyne, you potentially could do that, but then you lose what he gives you behind that 9 or 10. So you're looking at Foden. Do you push Foden up there? I mean, he's not got the ability. He doesn't even look like a striker. So, but I mean, look, if anybody can weather a storm like this, I would say it's Pep, because that's the difference. So you've said this already about, like, Klopp's not as strategic as Pep, but what Klopp does is he builds a good culture at a club, and he brings players together, and he'll develop a good team, a team ethos. But what Pep can do is kind of look at he'll just see this as a giant Rubik's Cube. How am I going to solve this problem? What do I do? And he'll play with more midfielders, and he'll have them training now about attacking in waves, and you'll see them without a centre forward, but you'll see them going forward with 5 or 6 players at a time, attacking, and that's the way they'll come through it. And at the end of the day, if they can stay solid behind the front line, they only need to score 1 or 2 goals. That'll be the big difference for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the only player that if I'm not playing, because I really don't like, unless Sterling is in a false 9 with 2 wingers in front of him, who I think he can play off, that's the only time I like Sterling coming through the middle. But besides, or if he's behind, I think City played against, I want to say Porto, they played a 4-4-1-1, and Sterling was, in that right behind the striker. And that's where he works. Now, the only player that I think that I've been so impressed with playing is in an out-and-out number 9 position that isn't a striker is Ferran Torres, the new signing from Valencia. I think he has actually genuinely looked like he can play there comfortably. Now, if that's the answer, he's he's still a young player who's just come in from a big move from Spain. If he can play in that role for City until you get Jesus back and until you get Aguero back, I think that's City's key. It's finding where the output of goals is coming from, because right now it's not sufficient. Now, as a counter to that, however, I think the only reason that City are still, pretty near to the top is because our defense has been completely, it's a bit early to say, but I think repaired, honestly. I think, what do you guys think of Ruben Dias?
He's competent enough to do the job. He's actually pretty good, but there's better defenders in the league. There's attackers who can beat him in the league, plenty, honestly. But again, if he has enough support, I'm sure he can do the job. Yeah.
Sure.
Problem for me is that I think you look back through the winning teams that have gone on and won the Premier League and even dominated the Premier League. They've always had an exceptional centre half. I can't think of a single team that's won the Premier League and not had 1, if not 2, exceptional centre halves. It's such an important position.
Yeah.
For the team.
You can argue that Liverpool hasn't had any world-class centre midfielders. Henderson is
centre back.
Oh, centre back. Oh, sorry. Yeah, my bad.
So Van Dijk, you look through. Name me a Premier League winning side that didn't have a brilliant centre back.
No, I don't think you can.
That's a fair point. Yeah,
United with Vidic in the early days.
Vidic and Ferdinand, one of the greatest centre halves ever. Chelsea when they won it, John Terry. Virgil van Dijk. Company for years.
But I think
even back into the 90s, the Man United sides of the early 90s had got Steve Bruce and Gary Pallister, and then you've got the Arsenal side that had got Tony Adams at centre half. You've got it's just the list goes. Even the Leicester side that won it had got Robert Huth, who was an absolute beast that season. So every single Premier League side.
I think it's the most important in a league like the Premier League. I think centre backs are the most, and I think I can't name one team in the world right now that isn't looking for a centre back, honestly.
No.
And there's
Man United paid 80 million for Harry Maguire, thinking he was going to be the next big thing.
And I think every single team in the world right now wants a quality centre back. It's the one of the most sought out positions in world football. And the thing is, there aren't that many amazing centre backs, and that's why I personally.
It brings up the importance of a centre back, not just being there and performing. It's also for your front three or the rest of your team even to feel like they've got a wall in their defense. They've got a fail safe in the back. Nothing. No one's getting past them. That's so much confidence for them, and they can perform so much better with confidence in their own positions. Yeah.
Although, if I'm being honest, I really genuinely do think that Ruben Dias and Aymeric Laporte is a championship winning pairing, honestly. From what I've seen I think every time I would watch a Man City defense, my 2 positions that I'm the most concerned about are the center back pairing between Laporte and who he's playing with, and the left back. Because I don't think Mendy's had too many injuries. He's so inconsistent. I don't want. I know we spent 50 million on him. I'm not happy with it at all. I think Zinchenko's competent as a left back. He can make mistakes. He's not the quickest on the ball. He's bullyable. So how did Pep fix that? He played João Cancelo, who's a right back, as a left back, and it's been working. Honestly, I think he looks like an extremely competent left back. And the other issue was playing a center back pairing. And I think we had hopes that maybe John Stones would be that for us, and he hasn't been. And then you spend 68 million, you bring in Ruben Diaz, and then it's like those two issues are fixed. So
I think write off Ake as well.
Absolutely, yeah. There's more and depth. That was for me the biggest thing. I was so happy when we signed Ake because I saw if we didn't sign another player besides Ake, I would have been concerned. But having him,
exceptional defender, really,
and he's left-footed, so it's again he fills those two. He's left back, center back. He fills those two positions, which are Man City's weakest. Because I think all of us can agree that Kyle Walker is a above average right back. He's a stable above average right back, and then you have Laporte, who is a world class center back, and then it's finding a pairing. And I think why I'm confident right now as a City fan and saying that I'm pretty sure we're gonna win the title this season is because my biggest worry last season was we scored plenty of goals, but we cannot defend, and not defending loses you points. You can win games by a margin of 1-0, or 2-1. That's okay. But when you go down 2-0 to a game, it is so hard to play the reverse of that. And that's what the reason Man City did not win the Premier League last season was dropping points to United, dropping points to Norwich, to Wolves twice, to Spurs, to Newcastle. All of these teams that City should comfortably beat, they didn't because that defense had issues and holes in it. And I think that's why I'm really confident is because I think the Man City's defense has been totally, or I want to say so far, fixed. I feel like after that Leicester game, it was a big shock to the head for Pep, and he spoke to his players about it, and he said, this is something that can never happen again, and ever since then, we've looked really comfortable defending. Now, as a counter to that, if we play on Sunday next week on the 8th, and we get destroyed by Liverpool, then I'm thinking, okay, then we're in big trouble because we're not scoring the goals we used to, and our strength of defense is gone. So I think
look, big fixtures are definitely the test to everything that we're saying, basically.
All right, next team then. United, Manchester United. Ole's at the wheel. Half the time the bus is gonna go into the Thames, and half the time he looks like he's flying to Paris. So what do you think of United so far?
Inconsistent. That's going to be the big thing for them. They've got some exceptional players going forward, but they're just too inconsistent at the back.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be their curse this year. Whether that will improve over the season and set them up for next year, I don't know, but they just look too inconsistent for me.
Yeah, and I don't see any real leadership in the team. Not enough, if any.
When your captain is you guys all watched that Chelsea game, right? That jump challenge on Azpilicueta where he's basically hugging him like this, like that's your captain, that's your leadership. That has to be 80. Honestly, Leicester's probably thanking them for getting Maguire out of that club and paying 80 million for him. I think United overpaid, and he has completely underperformed, and he looks like a liability almost.
Yeah.
But
looking at Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, he's...
No, go ahead, bud.
Looking at Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, he's been... I don't think he's really done anything. He's tried, sure, but he's just making the wrong moves. And I don't see how he's not seeing that he's making the wrong moves, but he continues to make them. And I really honestly feel that this is the last season for him. If he's not even sacked midway through, yeah.
When you start having players coming out and making comments about training sessions that are being done and how boring they are and lacking creativity and all of this sort of stuff, that's the bit. Whenever you start getting players making comments about the way the club's running, that becomes a bit of a concern for me, and it almost seems to be a sign of the times, and could be the end for Ole this year. It's a bit a shame because I do think I think with time he could do a good job for the club, but again, I still think there's too many influential factors in the dressing room that are influencing in the wrong direction. That for me still seems to be a big factor.
Sure. I mean, he has this like almost magic trick where everything looks downhill, and then he gets a performance out of nowhere. It doesn't make sense. It's just like everything looks downhill, and then he beats PSG or he takes a game off City, and then you're like,
comfortably.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
let's not forget PSG played. I mean, I think PSG played horrible in that game, but even the game against who was it? Who they beat 4-1? RB Leipzig. No, 5-0. Sorry. If you watch that game, you look at that scoreline and you think 5-0. Wow, they've battered them. Leipzig pretty much dominated United for 50 minutes while losing 5-0.
Here's the thing about United. Okay. Before I even say what I was going to say, Rashford. I feel like Rashford really needs to get a move, because I mean, look at what he's done for United.
He's a Manchester kid, though. I don't think he'd ever leave.
I know, but I mean, looking out for his career, I think he has to, because he's got so much talent, but he just can't. He can only do so much for the team. He's not going to win anything there.
Oh, I don't think he'd ever move. I think he's as stuck as a player like Trent at Liverpool. I think those kind of kids who have grown up, supporting those clubs through like harder times. I don't think Rashford would have to leave. But I think the biggest disappointment for me was the transfer window for Manchester United. I think it's impossible for any fan of United to go into this season with optimism when your big signing of the transfer window was a player that has played maybe 90 minutes in the past 6 weeks. I mean, Donny van de Beek, who was hyped as the Ajax wonder kid, coming to United to fix our midfield, and he's the missing piece in the midfield, and he's going to get the balls into Rashford, and he's going to unlock Pogba and Bruno together. And the kid isn't starting, and I'm looking at my watch like, what did you pay for that? Like, where is this money gone into him for specifically a player that has so much talent? We've seen what he can do at Ajax, with the right setup, and he looks like a bench warmer. And I've heard United fans say, why did we pay for him? It doesn't make sense.
It wasn't uncommon for Ferguson to do the same though at United. He would buy players and then they wouldn't play for a long time, and then they'd come out and play and they'd put on a stone and a half in weight because they'd been in the gym and just bulked up. And Ferguson would buy a player knowing that he would need to do a little bit with him before he's ready to play. The difference was Man United could win.
Sure, exactly.
They didn't need to play.
They can't buy someone and then develop them internally. They need to buy players that are ready-made and ready to play. Mm-hmm. I think the bigger thing for me, for United, is that the courtship of Sancho became farcical, became a joke, and that's embarrassing for a club like United, for a transfer target like that it literally became the summer joke, and that's not good for a club like United.
The players used to dream of even being, looked into by United. Yeah.
But the most shocking thing is that he was cool with the move. I don't think I could remember a time in the early 90s and early 2000s when the United was at their peak and they wanted a player and the player wanted to go to United and they were not able to. It just generally doesn't make sense. And I'm just left looking at United being like, is there enough there to challenge? I mean, I don't think anyone thinks they're going to win the Premier League. Is there enough there to challenge for top four, or progress in the Champions League, or progress in cups? Because when your big attacking signing is Cavani at 33, if they signed Cavani 4 years ago, I would be the number one fan. But this is a 33-year-old Cavani, and he's the attacking answer. You couldn't get Sancho, so you got Cavani. And it's just, United is so frustrating because we know they have money. This is a team that has they're the most profitable football club in the world. It doesn't make sense why they cannot have smart transfers.
Yeah. They paid 100 million for Sancho?
I think they should have, absolutely.
Absolutely.
But the crazy thing is, they were willing to. I think the final figure was 100 million plus 20 in add-ons, and United said we're not going over 110.
And they just decided to cut it off then.
10 million, around that figure roughly, was
which they then paid to the
Cavani's agent. Cavani's agent made 10 million in that transfer.
That's just it's so irrational.
I mean, like these clubs, I think that this is what holds clubs like Arsenal and United and what separates them from clubs. Can you imagine if an Ozil situation was happening at Liverpool or City? It just doesn't happen at these at these like top
Exactly.
elite clubs. And the issue
Yeah.
is with Arsenal and United having inexperienced managers and having such deadwood in the club, whether that's players or even the board, you get to these weird situations where you have quality players who either aren't coming to the club or are stuck at the club or aren't performing at the club. Where do we when do we give up on Pogba? I'm still hearing players saying, "Oh, give Pogba more time. You need to figure out which position." He's had four
How long has
years.
he been there?
He's
Yeah,
had 4
exactly.
years. It's not like some enigma. You know
Yeah.
where to play him, where Juventus played him, and where France plays him. It's not that hard. You just play him on the left side and give him space. But no, you need to play a 4-2-3-1. We're Manchester United. We play with wingers. We had Ryan Giggs. We're gonna play with wingers. And then you're looking at Dan James on the right, who last scored in the opening game of the Premier League. I mean, it's just infuriating, honestly. There's no love lost between me and Manchester United, but I want to see a competitive Manchester United. It's good for the league to see a competitive Manchester United and a team that cannot bring in their number one target, and is having an 80 million signing be questioned every single week. Just shows where United is.
Yeah.
I think the other thing, I've mentioned this player already tonight, but Jude Bellingham
Not
deciding to
going to
move,
United. That was
deciding to go to
shocking.
Germany and go and play for Borussia Dortmund rather than going and signing a young English player turning down Manchester United to go to a Bundesliga team is unheard of.
Mm-hmm. And even like the loans that United have done. There's one loanee that they have, Angel Gomez, who I think is a very very quality player. They sent him to Werder Bremen, or Diogo Dalot, who they've identified as a world class fullback apparently, or he will be. They sent him to Milan this season on loan. He has been
Scored, didn't he, the other day?
fantastic. Yeah, in his debut he scored, and I'm
Yeah.
just like, what is happening? Like this over Luke Shaw, and then how much.
Although Chris Smalling looked a world beater when he went to Italy, so
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. But like, and then Chris Smalling comes back, and I would have taken Chris Smalling over Bay or Maguire, but they sent him back to Italy because there's money in that. And then does everyone forget Brendan Williams, who apparently was coming up as this world class left back who United have been building out and who's going to be amazing, and then he plays one season as a half team regular, and then they just sign Alex Telles in the transfer window, and they go, oh no, forget about that. Yeah, so it's Luke Shaw and him. Don't even think about this kid. It's just consistency, and that
Yep.
stems from an inexperienced manager. And I think that if Ole does not win a trophy this season, he's gone. And I think he should be gone if he doesn't win a trophy this season.
Yep. And I don't think he's gonna win a trophy this season.
All right, let's do another pleasant surprise. Tottenham. I think everyone looked at Tottenham and was a bit uncomfortable. I think when you looked at how they
Yeah.
finished off their season last season. They clinched Europa League football, but they did not play well after Project Restart. They looked sluggish. They looked uncreative. Their front players looked bored. For the first time, I saw Harry Kane not smile when he scored a goal. I mean, Tottenham looked really dire. And then I think they have to be up there for having one of the best transfer windows. They signed quality players in different positions that they needed, and I think it's shown how well they're playing. You got Matt Doherty from Wolves, you got Reguilon from Sevilla and Real Madrid, you got Gareth Bale, you got what's his name again? The Danish Højbjerg from Southampton, Vinicius from I want to see PSV. Just these like key quality signings, and they didn't break the bank. And that just gives me so much confidence in Tottenham. And actually, them, we talked about backing your manager earlier, and I think this is Daniel Levy, who doesn't normally open his wallet much, actually backing Jose Mourinho. So,
And
where do you think the ceiling is for Tottenham this season?
yeah, no, okay. So yes, they're a great side. They've got amazing players on them right now, but I don't think they win the league. No, I don't
Sure.
think they win. But definitely top 4 team at this point.
Okay.
I mean, they've got a solid defense. They've got a solid midfield. They've got a solid attack. There's no reason why not. I don't see one anyway.
Outside chance of them finishing above Liverpool for me.
Oh, hot take. Hot take. Sure. I mean, but it's kind of come out of nowhere, right? I mean, there was that first game, Everton-Tottenham, which was like a game that I thought would be really interesting, and it just wasn't. I mean, Tottenham looked lifeless. And then ever since then, it's like sparks happened. Now, all I want to see is if this team loses, what happens? How does their mentality look? I think. Did you watch the All or Nothing Spurs?
I mean, they've already lost in the Europa
Sure,
League.
but I mean, on like consecutive, like maybe 2 games in a row or 3 games in a row. How does I think if you watch the All or Nothing Tottenham documentary, you saw like how this team has extremely emotional players, and when they're in a slump, the whole team looks in a slump. So we've seen this brilliant partnership with Son and Kane, and they've looked fantastic up front. But what happens if one of them doesn't score for 2 games? Where does that go?
You've got to sleep in fail though, right?
Is he? Is he? I mean,
yeah. I mean, people saying he's not the player he used to be. He's not played. He's hardly kicked a ball for nearly 12 months, right? I mean, he was getting treated like absolute crap at Real Madrid. I mean, he's only got. It depends how Mourinho's dealing with it. If Mourinho's filling him full of love and telling him he's going to be the best thing in the world and all that, like for me, he's a sleeping giant. If he gets into his stride, I think Tottenham really could be a big.
I mean,
threat.
he's only 31, and when you look,
he's got a good 3-4 years ahead of him. Yeah.
When you look at a 31-year-old winger, you're probably thinking, "Oh, he's getting to that point." But let's not forget that he hasn't played. He's barely featured the past 18 months. So fitness, like once he gets to his fitness level again, he's kind of missed out on a year and a half of actual football. So he shouldn't be very like. His pace should be slowing down. He should still be as comfortable as he is on the ball. So I think you're totally right. I think that Tottenham have a potential world-class player. Now, if you can get that out of him, then you can start competing. Because a front three of Kane, Son, and Bale looks beautiful to watch. But are you getting?
I mean, Lamella's great, but Bale. It's Bale.
Lucas, Bergwijn. I mean, yeah, there's quality. My only issue with this Tottenham team that I don't think is getting spoken enough about is Dele Alli. What is it? I don't know. Like
finished at Tottenham
2 years ago.
Yeah, no.
I wouldn't be surprised to see him go in January. I wouldn't be surprised to see him move on.
He needs to move on for himself as well, not just for the team.
I mean, 2 years ago, everyone was saying he's the future of English football, and then
no, I never saw it in him. Honestly, I mean, yeah, he's great. He has had great moments, but in the end, he hasn't. He's not. He's no Haaland. He's no Sancho.
I mean, he's 24, 25 at this point.
He's got a future ahead of him, but he needs to move on.
But who takes him? That's my question. There are those PSG links. I don't think a team really wants Dele Alli at this point.
Yeah, no, they don't need him. They shouldn't want him either.
So then, do you do the strategy where you go to maybe a lower team for a little bit, and then you build up your brand value? And
I think so too.
Italy could be a good fit for him. Slower pace of game.
Sure.
I mean,
be the giant on the pitch. I think that'll be good for him.
I think you very rarely see Dele Alli doesn't strike me as being a particularly intelligent young man. And
he's very lazy. He's very lazy. He's very lazy.
I think intelligence as well, though. He just like you listen to him in interviews and stuff. He doesn't seem to have a level of intelligence, and I think that there's an element of that, like understanding yourself, understanding where you sit in things, understand what you're going through, getting to grips with what's happening in the world around you. Like I don't know whether he's got that capacity. You know, like Harry Kane's an intelligent guy. You listen to him speak, and he's got some cognitive ability. He's articulate. He's clear in what he's talking about. He's listened to Dele Alli, and I just feel I wonder what's between his ears and whether he's got that intelligence to be able to recognize that there's certain things that got to happen. Like if he's got the wrong people in his ears, if his agent isn't looking after him properly, if he's got advisors around him that aren't advising him in the right way, I wonder. I mean, I could be completely wrong. He could be an absolute genius, but if he's got the wrong people around him, then he could quite easily find himself ending up.
And I think he's been hyped up too much. I think it got to him a little bit. I think
he has to understand that there are players in his position, from his nation, that are performing better than him. I mean, I can name what: Phil Foden, James Maddison, Mason Mount. All three of those players, if I get Grealish, yeah. All four of those players, if I get the option to take over Dele Alli, I'm taking them in a heartbeat. Because I think those players are all better than him. And I'm not even just talking about club football. If you want to play national team football, consider the fact that you might even not get a call up to England with this kind of attitude. Like, we know he's lazy in training. All of his coaches have said he's lazy in training. The other thing is, before, he could be lazy in training and then turn it on in big games. And now that's just not happening because he's not playing. I mean, he's not making the bench.
No, he hasn't done that, yeah.
So, I think in January, probably I think he gets a loan move. I think Tottenham likes these kind of loan moves. Like with they did it last season with Danny Rose, where they put Danny Rose in as left back at Newcastle for half a season. I think I could definitely see him go for a January loan just to get him playing again. And then if there's a player in there somewhere, you actually you try and extract some value out of him or move him onto a team like they did with Ericsson.
Yep, maybe.
Yeah, I think Tottenham's interesting. The last big boy, actually one of the last big boys that we cover is Chelsea, who very, very interesting transfer window. Very surprising that they spent so much on. I mean, they didn't spend that much compared to what I think people expect they should have spent on those players. Getting a player like Werner for 55 million is a bargain. But I think what do you guys think of Chelsea so far?
I mean, done great for themselves. To be honest, I'm impressed with them, but I'm anticipating their big moment because they've done great. They've risen pretty well, but I feel like they have more in them. They can do more. They've got plenty of youngsters, but again, we talked about this. They just need more organization. They need more consistency.
Sure.
There's not a lot that really excites me about them, to be honest.
Really? That's surprising. You don't think about like that potential, close your eyes and picture Havertz and Werner and Ziyech and Pulisic and Mount all working together in a beautiful front six.
Not happening, is it, at the minute? That's what I mean. It's not. It could be. That could be great, but there's a lot of teams that could be great. It's whether they will or not. I do like Mason Mount. I like Mason Mount a lot as a player. I think he's a really nice, complete footballer. But yeah, there's just nothing.
Where do you rank on Kai Havertz?
I've not seen enough of him.
Okay. I mean, he's not made the best. I know he had a hat-trick already for Chelsea, but he's not made the best start. But trust me, watching this kid, like I watched Leverkusen's games last season, just Kai Havertz is, if you watch him in person and even you watch like those player cams focused on him, the amount of natural, raw talent the kid has is just sublime to watch.
Yeah, we've seen what he can do. He just needs to get to doing it.
He's not as refined. A player like Werner is much more refined and much more consistent. Havertz can have those games where he kind of drops off. But Havertz is probably one of the most talented football players in the world, easily. For his age and the amount he can do, he's a brilliant player. It's just getting the quality out of him. I think one thing we should address is, Mr. Lee, how big of a fan of you are you of Kepa?
Again, like just nothing really excites me about him. I don't think he's okay. He wasn't incredible.
I mean, statistically,
so I'd say not really a fan.
No, I think I'm not. I enjoyed Kepa at Valencia, but I mean, ever since I think Kepa has the worst save percentage of any goalkeeper for the past 2 seasons.
He's been disappointing. Yeah,
he's been terrible. And then, they brought in Mendy, this goalkeeper from Rennes, and Mendy's been fantastic. Mendy's kept 4 clean sheets.
Oh yeah, he's done great. Yeah,
and this makes me happy, honestly. Like, because I'm not a Chelsea fan, but what Chelsea's doing with their team and this like kind of youth movement and this like attacking, interesting football. I think Frank Lampard. As much as I go down on or like rate Ole down compared to other managers, I think I'm the complete opposite with Frank Lampard, where I actually believe in what he can do. Maybe that's because I think he was a better player, but there's more. Do you have more faith in Frank Lampard compared to other new managers?
Well, I watched a lot of Derby County while Frank Lampard was there because the Mason Bennett was there, so I was watching a lot of him, and I liked what he did at Derby. The football that he got them playing. I mean, it was a different side because he got Harry Wilson mixed in there with them, and some of the Derby guys mixed in with Mason Mount and some of the others. I like what he's trying to do. I like his style of football. It's very similar to the style of football that the most successful Chelsea side that he played in with played. So like when you've got Arjen Robben playing and you've got Drogba in there, you've got him playing in there. They've got that that kind of rushing forward play where it was 3 or 4 sweeping balls that would shift the ball from just inside their own half, and then they'd be up on the byline and attacking that way. That style of football was very much the way that, very similar in my mind to the way Chelsea played when he was playing. Mm-hmm. So I do like that, and I like Frank Lampard. It's just that Chelsea just aren't exciting me at the moment.
Sure.
Just the one thing I don't like about Lampard is his attitude. I think he sees himself a little bit. He sees himself as like too high, a bit conceited. Because I mean, the way he talked to Klopp, for example, at their match when he confronted him about winning the league and now feeling like he's everything, he actually hasn't. He was just salty, basically. And we've seen that multiple times, and I really don't like that about him. And I fear that it's going to reflect in like his players are going to start, I mean, his attitude might rub off on them maybe, but hopefully not, obviously.
Yeah, I think he's very passionate, but I think you need to commend him for the job he's done with his, young players, right? Getting the likes of a striker who was kind of going nowhere in Tammy Abraham, and has really, really, made him look like a very promising talent. Getting the best out of Mason Mount, getting the best out of Hudson-Odoi, believing in Pulisic, I think. There's a lot of, I think, promise on this Chelsea side, which makes me a lot more excited for them compared to, I think, the next thing that we're going to do, Arsenal. I really don't like talking about Arsenal because I don't see a future for them. I mean, maybe you're different, Mr. Holt. I really don't see a future for Arsenal.
I don't know. There seems to be some spark that's just not there for Arsenal. All they ever seem to have around them is negative vibes and negative media, negative press, and I don't know. I do like Arteta though, and I like what he's what he's about. I like what he wants them to the way he wants them to play. But yeah, it's the same. Like it's just there's no spark there. There's nothing exciting about them again.
Quality,
a little bit like health, really.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of,
here's a fun statistic. In the first, I think 15-16 games. Oh, wow.
Yeah, they just scored against United, actually.
There was a statistic, I think the first 15 or 16 games that Arteta had with Arsenal, he's won 12 of them. And Emery has won, I think, 14 of his first 15, 16 games. Yeah, so, I mean, looking at it that way, he's got a great vision with his team. I respect what he's done, but is it enough? Is the question.
Yeah, no, I think I think they made some great signings in like certain areas. Like I think Thomas Partey is a fantastic signing for that club, and he's the kind of quality that they need. But for example, certain players like maybe, I really hated the Willian move, and his first game there was like a lot of promise, but just watching, I think the Willian move was really, really poor, honestly. And overall, I don't know. I don't see a future for Arsenal when your center forward Lacazette is not producing, when Aubameyang, who is your best player, isn't producing this season, and these guys are on huge wages. I mean, just look at Mesut Ozil. What is Mesut Ozil makes $13.8 million a year to not even sit on the bench? It doesn't make sense, and this would not pass at a club like City or Liverpool or even I was going to say Madrid, but they had the Bale situation for almost a year, so I can't say Madrid. It's like Barcelona or a bunch of these elite clubs. These situations don't happen, and it shows the gap and disparity between these clubs and management. So, I mean, yeah, it's frustrating. I think there are a lot of Arsenal fans who want to see improvement, and I think there's a road to improvement, but it comes from smart transfers. And I don't think Arsenal has really, really been great to watch or great to listen, like to hear even how they talk and how the team plays and all that. I personally think Arsenal's in a declining state.
Although Aubameyang has scored the penalty that Pogba's.
That is true. I keep looking down at my phone. By the way, if Arsenal beat United today, I think it's the first time they've beat a team on an away ground for 32 matches. So it's quite big against the top 6 side. It's quite big for Arsenal. And all right, so the last team that we're going to cover quickly, because I think Sully wanted to talk about them, and I want to hear your opinion on them. What do you think of Leeds?
I think they're a candle in the wind at the moment. I think it's just another one of those where new side comes up into the league. No one's really been able to see them playing against good opposition week in, week out. I think they'll get found out. They'll finish bottom half. Wouldn't be surprised if they end up still in a relegation battle. Even though everyone's talking about them being this incredible side, they've done so good. They're going to do a Leicester. I really wouldn't be surprised to see them down in the relegation zone towards the end of the year.
Okay.
But I don't like Leeds because I'm a Sheffield United fan by default. So I'm not a big fan of Leeds. But look, I think it's one of those where they've had a really good start, and it could be the difference. You look back through history and look at the sides that come up from the Championship and go straight back down. Most of the time, those sides that go straight back down have a really unfortunate start. They get a real bad decision in the first couple of games and get a penalty given against them, and then that puts them in a bit of a losing mentality. Leeds have started well, so that could be the difference. They could get themselves a decent enough margin, but I think they'll bottom half of the table for sure if they're not down there in the relegation.
Wow, really? Okay.
I feel like they have a future in the Premier League, but not this year, not next year. They need to build it up, and for now, their battle is to stay in the Premier League, not to score. Like, they're not going to get high. That's just honestly, but they just need to work on staying in the Premier League so they can build on it in the next 5 years.
Yeah, I think the future is probably, they have those young players like Calvin Phillips and stuff, and there's a lot of Poveda even. There's a lot of quality. I think Bamford has been such a pleasant surprise to watch the kid who I didn't think would do anything. I think they signed Rodrigo because they thought Rodrigo was going to be their starter, and I think Bamford's been great for that club. But I think it's what you have to attribute to Leeds that we don't give normally to championship clubs is a extremely competent coach, and that's what Marcelo Bielsa is really. So I personally, I think I'm a lot higher on them. I think they're going to finish in the top half of the table, and I think they even, God, it's not as hot take as you saying Liverpool is going to finish beneath Tottenham, but I'm going to say maybe like eighth, yeah. Yeah, I think eighth.
I'll see it. I hope for their sake they do. I can't see it, but
yeah.
All right, well, I think we've got, last thing we're going to do quickly is for next week we have our big game, City Liverpool, which I think all of us can agree is a top of the table battle. Predictions. What do you think the scoreline is going to be?
It'll either be a high score draw or it could be a real boring 0-0.
Okay, but you're saying draw.
I think so.
Okay, Sully, what do you think? We can see the dog trouble a bit. Tell him we say hi.
No, I see maybe like a 2-1 win, I think. I don't know which side, but a 2-1 win.
Okay.
I don't know which side, though.
Okay, I was going to go 2-1 City, but if it wasn't 2-1 City, it would have been like 1-1. Because I think both sides, Liverpool can score but not defend, and City can defend but not score. So, I mean, let's see.
I don't know. We'll see.
All of us could be blown out, and it ends up being like 4-4. You're getting like prime football.
Or 4-0.
Okay. Which is what we did to you guys last time, by the way.
Okay, buddy.
Anyways, so I think we're going to put bookend on this one. Thank you so much, Mr. Hall, for being our guest for the first
episode. Haven't we got a position to pick up?
No, we're going to start doing that near the end of the season.
Oh, okay.
Too early. Actually, you know what? Yeah. Who is for the first 6 weeks of the Premier League? Who is your one spotlighted player that you want us to focus on? You think that's been brilliant so far that you didn't expect?
Wow, you put me on the spot there. Oh, that's a real tricky one. Again, you've mentioned him already. I guess Bamford would be up there, but I mean, Grealish has been a superstar. I think everyone thinking all he was about was drawing fouls, but I think he's proven a lot of people wrong. I think his attitude's awful, and I think that's ultimately why he's not been playing in the England side. I think it's just Southgate's just not come out and said it, but I think he's been great. I think the number one would have to be Calvert-Lewin for me, though. I think he would be the one for me that stands out above everything else.
Same for me there. I was going to say the same. Yeah.
Wow, I'm surprised no Son. I was expecting one of you to say Son, maybe.
No. Calvert-Lewin's just
package. I think he's always had that quality, hasn't he?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I'm gonna go for 2 hot takes actually. I'm gonna say Foden is one of them, but my second is actually the oh god, what's his name? The oh god, he plays for Leicester. Madison. I think Foden and Madison this season are gonna be brilliant.
I mean, I disagree with Foden because he should be performing like this all the time, really. But,
Okay. Jeez, relax. I let you have your Curtis Jones bit. You can let me talk about Foden a bit and be happy. I think Greenwood as well. Greenwood deserves a nod for. Let's see. I think we didn't mention when we were talking about United, but I mean, I think all of us should generally for Rashford for the effort he does on the pitch, but the amount of work he's doing. Off the pitch for becoming an MP now, and all the work he does for children in the UK is just so commendable. And it's so rare to see someone who's 22 years old be that mature and responsible and that caring. I think, absolutely. Even I think I've tweeted a lot about it, that being someone who is from a rival fan club, you have to respect and commend Max Rashford for his efforts as a footballer, but even as a human being and as someone who's using his position of power to not only try and help change, but be change himself, Yeah. When the government denied it, I think when the government didn't want to carry on with his plan, he most footballers would be like, okay, guys, tweet at the government. He put a plan in place, which is serving millions of children in the UK. So, yeah, from all of us at the locker room, I think if Max Rashford, if you're ever watching this, we all commend you. But, all right, anyways, I think we're gonna call it there. Thank you so much, Mr. Hull, for being a part of our podcast today. We hope you enjoyed it.
Great evening. Good conversation. Appreciate it.
So you guys can find us on YouTube. I'm your host, Zain, and my co-host, Sully, and of course our amazing guest, Mr. Hull. You can check him out on Twitter, and you can find our Twitters and everything in the description. Thanks so much.